Let's begin this meeting by extending our gratitude for our dedicated employees whose efforts keep this transit system running day after day. We're grateful to our fellow board members for your expertise and for the commitment you serve and the trust, and we're welcome. We're grateful to the community for our trust and our honor and responsibility we take seriously. I'm getting worse at reading, so you have to bear with me here. I want to thank our general manager for steering us through challenges and opportunities alike. Your vision is critical to this authority. I'd like to say a few words in tribute to Joe Lazzara, a former board member and chair, who recently passed away. We're grateful for him, having known him, and for his years of service and his lasting impact. Pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So Bernie, you can write that up and somebody can read it for you.
Yeah, I might do that. Yeah, my vision is getting worse by then.
My eyesight is terrible.
Roll call.
Melissa Bilton,
She's here, but she's muted.
Catherine D'Angelo,
Here.
Cheryl Eyeball,
Here.
Billy Jean Johnson,
Here.
Martin,
Here.
Elijah Mefford,
Still traveling.
Bernard Silverman,
Here.
Nicholas Twig,
Yeah.
Randall Wallace. Yeah.
This is on. Yeah, Melissa's online.
Okay, before we approve the agenda, I'd like to make one change, and I'd like to change the announcement to come ahead of executive session. So we have a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion to approve the agenda carries. Next is the approval of the minutes. Have a motion to approve the minutes.
I move that we approve the motion.
Second.
Okay, it's moved and seconded to approve the minutes. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Acknowledgement of visitors. I know we have one visitor here, Mr. Pulaski. You have 3 minutes and we'd love to hear from you. It's been a while.
It's been a while. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, members of the board, staff. I don't see any public members. Long time no see. My name is Robert Plosky. I'm a transit advocate in the home state of Michigan and also some parts of South Carolina. So it's a pleasure to be here after a long several months of not being on some calls. A lot has happened over the last few months. A couple things. So I'm very happy to see a lot of the progress. I've been reading a lot in the news, been reading a lot on some of the website and a lot of the emails I've been receiving on a lot of the projects that Coast has been doing. Very excited to see the North Myrtle Beach service after getting on it for the first time and since it being introduced almost a year ago. Wonderful service, seeing it really improve the community and accessibility around our neighborhoods. And it's really going to change Horry County and how we need to improve transportation and equity around our region for years to come. Also seeing a lot of the new taxation plans and, ways of funding sources. And one thing I keep stressing in front of our staff and board here is state funding. State funding, state funding, state funding. In my home state of Michigan, we are having the same problem. Unfortunately, we go under property taxes, and that unfortunately doesn't work in our favor half the time. And I do see Brian shaking his head because I know that's something that really hits us most. That's why transportation in our state is still struggling. And sales tax, as we know, sales tax is one of the things that really does help us, but only to a certain extent. What I've been actually researching around in our legislature, especially here in South Carolina, is kind of the funding sources. Sales tax is the only thing we have to even fund service. Even areas like Columbus and other areas, Columbia, Charleston, Darlington, you name it. There's other areas of transportation that's very needed in this area. Maybe asking your state legislators, I encourage you as individual citizens, not just board members, because it could be a conflict of interest, really having those conversations with your state legislator, whether it's your member in the House of Representatives, your state senator, even contacting your Congress member or your state senator. gaining that support to really get that need of transportation out here. I know this state is very car dominated and everybody wants to drive or use Uber or Lyft or try to find alternative transportation. But it's those folks that can't afford a car that matter. Because I know a lot of people in this room that are board members that use transportation, including myself when I'm here in this town. It's an hour and a half a piece. It's not reliable and it's very hard to get around. It takes almost an hour and a half from where I'm at Ocean Lakes down at Surfside Beach to get over here to Conway. And it's so infrequent. So I beg and I encourage this board to please make the word, stick up for what you know what's best. Talk to your state legislators. If transportation is important to you like it is to me, we really need to start making moves long term if we're going to improve in this region. We have the GSTATS plan, we have Ride 4. Those are just the icing on top of the cake. But the state funding and gaining that support from our legislators is going to really help us long term. So that's the one thing I want to leave here before I head back to my lonely state of Michigan. And the last thing I kind of want to make known is I am doing service performance for you. I'm tracking a lot of service improvement performance that we have here in the system, and I will be happy to provide that report to staff and board if they're interested in looking at it. It may not be accurate, but that's because of a lot of the service that I've been witnessing the last few days. So it's been great. And the tactic,
Thank you very much.
yes, and I appreciate your time. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to pull me aside.
Thank you. Are there any other visitors here? I don't see any. Nobody else
You're
here?
having me online, Robert.
Okay, for the committee reports, first committee is the Public and Agency Coordinating Committee, formerly known as Service PAC. Dr. Twig?
Yeah, so we had a service pack meeting and then I had an extra training meeting for myself anyway. Yeah. At our, at that meeting, we went over ridership and part of my education was to how to effectively use the information that we get and not get it even worse. And I'll have to share that with sharing that with my committee offline how to do it. But two very important things came up that we have to be working on now. And one was our community transit partnership and how it worked with the PAC. And so we have some information on the triennial review update. But I'd like to turn it over to Brian, if I might, there to discuss some of the community transit. Turn it over to Stan.
So I think the biggest news coming out of Service Pack, or Pack with two C's, which we need to edit, is the resurrection of this group that we used to call the SAG or the Community Advisory Board, the CAB. That's probably better than SAG. But even better than that is Community Transit Partnership or Partners. We've scheduled a meeting. This group is intended to be representatives from a number of agencies that either support clients that use our services, or we would also we also have planned to get folks who actually ride this onto this group. This, we haven't had one of these meetings since pre-COVID. So it's overdue that we have this group meeting and allowing the subcommittee to bounce ideas off, discuss issues, those types of things with this group. So we're expecting Service Pack members to attend these meetings, hopefully. The first meeting has been scheduled for September 9th at Chapin Library at 6:30 p.m. I don't think Lauren and I are expecting to have the full group there that night, but we're going to do our damnedest to get as many of them there as possible. As it relates to ridership being on the board, we are offering a application process so that people can apply to be on the board if it's something that they want to spend time doing and commit to. And I think that's a good way of doing it, simply because you want whoever's going to be on that board to be active and vocal. Any of you all are invited to offer thoughts on who should be represented on the board, on this group. And I think the agenda is filling up pretty fast for this group. I think front and center will be looking at the results of an onboard survey that's tied to the organizational plan. We'll talk about that a little bit in a minute. I think it's become clear to staff, and certainly me, that we need to have a backup plan in case Ride 4 doesn't go through. That's going to involve some service cuts, whatever that looks like. And so this group will definitely be front and center on setting those, something that we don't want to have to do, but it's something that we need to be ready for in case things don't go well on November 6th. And just from a timing perspective, we kind of need to have those decisions done before Ride 4, and so that if Ride 4 is unsuccessful, we can go to public meetings and try to get something in place on January 1st for new service. And while it's not something that I like thinking about or want to think about, there's a long history of this happening in other parts of the state. Charleston, Columbia, and Greenville all went through serious service cuts prior to getting their existing funding. And so hopefully we can avoid that. And I've gotten no indication that anything's changed as it's related to polling on Ride 4. I know there's some controversial projects out there. I don't think transit is one of them. And so I don't really have any indication that things have turned for the worse or anything like that. So we're all sort of hoping for a positive Ride 4 outcome, and we can go the other way and utilize a lot of the recommendations coming out of the organizational plan that that will serve as a path moving forward for growing our system. We do have an onboard survey plan for August 12th through the 17th. Would have liked to have done this a little bit earlier in the process, but we've got big plans for the results of that survey. It's got questions on it related to where do people think we should grow, or where our riders think we should grow. And this is focused on riders, so it is on board, how they're using our system now, some demographic information, and fare payment. And so the results of that will really be the last piece for our consultant to sort of wrap up the organizational plan on a number of fronts. Not the least of which would be a new fare structure, which we'll have to put in place ASAP as soon as it's written. And then moving forward, the community transit partners will certainly be involved in short, medium, and long range planning. On the other side of things related to agency coordination, which is what the AC and PAC stands for. We have had some pretty good conversations with Partnership Grand Strand and the Chamber related to a workforce summit. That was something that we were planning to do in association with the TASC annual conference it's the week of Labor Day. So it's like the 4th and 5th of September here in Myrtle Beach. I don't think that we're going to be doing a workforce summit, certainly in the vein that I was kind of working towards. But we are going to be doing something smaller at the tail end of the TASC meeting on Thursday afternoon. And that's something that I want the board to be aware of, that the 4th and 5th is TASC here in town, and let me know if that's something that you're interested in attending. I don't have full information on the agenda yet. Should be happening here. We've got a board meeting tomorrow, so we should be seeing draft agenda tomorrow. And as soon as I get that information, I'll forward it out to everybody. And then
To say, well, we're
Yeah,
here,
go
I was gonna
ahead.
bring something under announcements, but not here now, that we need to let people know pretty quickly, because we're already past the early registration, which is $450. The full registration is $495. So I think you need to let someone know right away, and also make sure that, you really plan to attend at a $500 bill. And there is an online, there's a website for it now.
Transitsc.org.
Yeah, and you can find it by task or anything like that. And it's not a complete hour by hour schedule,
Yeah.
but it's got a lot of it. So,
Well, and we've been contemplating doing another round of board member training. And
that's
so,
not on there now.
yeah, and I think that would happen on Tuesday afternoon. But I'm not sure if they're doing it yet. So I haven't been involved in the conversations. Lauren, you haven't?
If you go to the board, training, you have to pay the full amount, right?
No, it's a menu. I mean, if you just want to do the board training, you
Yeah,
can.
well, that's
do
what
that
we've done in the past,
Yeah.
right?
You haven't heard anything about that, have you, Lauren, on the conference calls?
Conference calls.
Okay.
But
So,
state-
but it should, they gotta get moving since we're only,
But
45 days.
the state used to represent the board training.
well, and that, it's funny that you raised that, Kitty. We're not expecting a huge turnout at this conference this year because the state is kind of bowed out. They're not offering any rural transportation assistance program. So that is usually the source of funding that a lot of systems use to send people to it. And so we'll see.
But the
But
training was the same every year. They didn't change it at all, you know?
yeah,
Well,
I think they've made some improvements to it,
yeah, yeah.
but yeah,
Our tap is where they have all their
Well,
headaches.
they've gone in a long time.
Yeah.
right.
We have not gone in 8, 10 years, right?
And there were transit meeting in Clemson coming up too.
There was one in Greenville in July. But that, I kind of glossed over it. The conversation with Grand Strand is they agreed that doing a workforce transportation summit made a lot of sense, and we may do it in the same vein as the Rural Transit Day. And so it may not wait until next September to do it. I've gotten, got a lot of state agencies who are interested in attending. Department of Employment, Workforce, Aging, Rural Health, all of those
AARP.
new part of AARP. And so and we've gotten a commitment from the Lieutenant Governor to attend when it happens. So we've got good things behind that. The other thing I just wanted to mention, which seems to be gaining a little bit of momentum, is that there are some folks in Georgetown who are noticing that there's a project, Coast RTA, on their capital projects sales tax referendum. There's 625,000, something like that, in funding for a transit center in Georgetown, which is certainly something long term that we're interested in doing, maybe shorter term if this funding comes through. But even GSATs was interested in, or the COG was interested in coordinating on possibly a location. So some legs getting behind that. I think from our perspective, if the referendum passes down there, I think it's a little bit more question down there. Lily, Jean, you may weigh in on this, but it doesn't have the same kind of legs behind it that we have in Horry County necessarily. But if it passes, then we'll kick in a site evaluation down there and look at options for us. You want to add anything to that or nothing?
To get back to the community transit.
Yes, sir.
Partnership, as we discussed. We have some things that kind of general managers report, and also in announcements. But just my final words on what we talked about, the community transit partnership, is we have the relationships amongst all the work we've been doing. The Myrtle Beach, the MD cubed type of process that's been really great. It's been really great doing a lot of things. But now we're going to try and get more coordination between us and the various different functions that we're doing. That's a big thing coming up. Surveys, and meetings, and our membership to the Citizens Transit. If you look in the bylaws, it's in there that each of the board members to nominate someone. And to help you out with that, there's actually, the staff has done a great job with the application. So that people, so that when you do talk to people about serving, that they have an idea of what it may, time that may be involved and things like that. Which in the past, we've had issues with, people didn't want, I don't have the time to do it. They're saying, well, it's only, a couple hours, every 3 months or so. Once they know that, so we'll be asking you, board members, to support that.
The next meeting, he had one charter member of the partnership group, Melissa from Conway Medical Center. He runs their Southeast South Carolina program. He was very dynamic, I thought. He had a very good line there.
But thank you very much.
If anybody wants to, just to interject, Nick, the application is on the website. If you go to under, I think it's About Us, the third tab over all the way down. I switched it, it says Community Transit Partners, and you click on that, and it will show you kind of a brief description, and then you can click and get a hold of that application. And I'd be happy to send it to you. I can send you a JPEG, I can send you just the application and then a clickable PDF to send out as well, and the click will take you to the website, which is where the application lives. So I was trying to close that loop to make it a little easier.
I'm gonna pass this around just to the board members. Everybody just give it their name. Diana, over you.
So, right before vacation, we went through triennial review. It was done on site this time around. The 2021 was done remotely. As I told the committee, I want to commend staff. I don't think our review really could have gone much better than it did. No findings in a lot of the important things that the FTA really cares about, maintenance, HR, any of that stuff. We did have 3 deficiencies identified. They are all in the Title VI procurement area, Title VI being civil rights. And I've got them listed up there. I'm not sure if anybody can read that, but the procurement finding was a direct result of not having a procurement manager on site. We had one procurement that didn't have the correct documentation associated with it. But the corrective action is primarily to go through some training, try to find a new procurement manager, make sure they get trained. We got good marks on the procurement manual, which is really the important thing. And the review really centers on, are you following your procurement manual? And so we had one small project that was a sole source that didn't have the correct documentation. And it was really a matter, we couldn't find it. And it occurred while our procurement manager was out on. So that's something that we should be able to shore up pretty quickly. The DBE analysis, shortfall analysis in FY22, we did not meet 5% goal, and we're required to submit an analysis of why that happened. And to be perfectly honest, I don't know how to do the analysis. I've not done one before. And so I've requested technical assistance for someone to come in and actually do the analysis for us. And then right on the heels of that, we'll get some help establishing a new goal, because it's time for us to establish a new DVE goal.
And is that having DVE suppliers or?
Well, it is, I've done the goal before, and you look at the amount of money that's projected to go out of this agency that a DVE might be eligible to get. And then you figure out, based on the availability of vendors that meet the disadvantaged business enterprise, for those of you who don't know what DV is, that, are in the right sectors that they could actually bid on your stuff. And, I think when we got here, it was like 2%, and we knocked it up to 6%, primarily because of the bus stop project. And it dropped back in FY 21 to 5.16 or something. But FTA never reviewed that. So the question I had for them on the shortfall analysis, are we doing a shortfall analysis based on the 6%, which was from 2017, or the one that you all never reviewed? So I was able to put a little bit back on them. And then the last one was, our Title VI program, which, we actually have a really good one that, was done back in 21. Just needed to be updated by February. And so, we've gotten an extension to update it here in the next couple of months, and, we'll get that squared away. So all of these, findings should be resolved, probably by September 30th, but no later than January 1st. And we'll be good to go. But all in all, pretty good report.
Like if we subcontract with like Kimley Horn, does their DBE help us?
The only transactions that we can't count DBEs on would be vehicle purchases. So there are vendors that meet, that have DBE certification that, construct alternators or whatever, that's on the manufacturing industry. So
Right.
they have separate goals with that. Everything else is, up fair game. We do so much in-house. Like, all of the money that goes towards labor expenses is not eligible
Mhm.
for DB. So it's really the margins that we're focused on. And so, yeah, those contracts we had with AECom and Kimley Horn, we required a DBE participation rate, and they've been meeting those goals. So like FY 23, we met the goal. I think we're on pace to meet it this year, although we're close.
I've got one question for a service tax. Are our tap percentages moving at all? Are they going up or staying? the
They,
same?
they haven't really looked at it a lot lately, but they seem to be. The dollar amounts are increasing on those. We had like 42,000 in June for all fares, and I think we were over 8 in the tap system. So what is that?
20%.
That is 20%. So that is a little bit, that's upticking a little bit. It's been really slow moving in terms of getting the barcode tickets up. I know, Marty wants us to get the barcoded tickets so that she doesn't have to count out 500 passes with the business card tickets that we have.
Why does it take so long? We've been doing that.
It's in development with the vendor. They haven't, this time last year, they hadn't even thought about it. And so they've been struggling to get it updated, and it's complicated a little bit by the fact that I procured them through California. So like they have to meet California standards on the process. So that's probably the biggest reason why it slowed down. They're promising it soon. But they've been saying that for a while now. So we gotta kind of get moving.
And what is the name of the Tap the Cap guy?
That's Cuba Pay.
No, the guy in our
Oh, Sunbert McFlairson.
Sunbert,
Sunbert McFlairson. Yes, sir.
good candidate for.
He's Irish.
Community transit.
Irish, you must-
Irish or Scottish. It's Mick, not Mac. So I think that's Irish, but,
Yeah, but a lot of Irish live in Scotland. That's true.
so yeah, we're working with, T2H on a new ad campaign.
I call him Sonny just for short.
Sunbert.
Sunbert.
Sunbert. So
All right, Dr. Twig, anything else for?
I think that's it on.
Yeah, that's it.
Finance Committee, Dr. King.
Yes, so we met last week, discussed a few items. Reviewed our May financials, where we looked at some of the specific line items and
Do you,
looked
do you want me to pull them
at,
up? Well, June?
well, we looked at some of the specific line items and just talked a little bit about the variation in not being on or above or below budget basis. We also looked a little bit at, obviously, cash balance and cash management. Talked a little bit there, and we'll see some policies here to try to correct some of that. In the financials last, and we talked a little bit about the ratios and the change from May to June, noticing some of the ratios.
Well, then it's getting better.
Yeah. Some big jumps, but we were able to,
We know Mr. Wilson would have been looking at that.
yeah, particularly in the liquidity ratio, concern, and obviously what that means for our cash balance. To get,
You can see the uptick in current ratio.
other than that, we talked a little bit about policy that will you it's we'll see a little bit.
Yeah. Obviously, the last, I guess I'll just say for July, it's been more about cash requirements, like making sure we're covering payroll and that sort of thing. So I'll go to you may remember that we put in some reductions, some service reductions in, I remember March or April timeframe, I think that they a little bit. And the revenue hours in the system went down in June by about 300 hours from last June. So the decreases took effect from a service provision standpoint, but our pay hours actually went up in transportation. That did not compute. So staff and I are doing some digging deep in here and trying to figure out why that happened. I think we do have some personnel that are billing to the wrong thing. We got a little bit of that. We had a lot of training in early June, leading up to the summer. So I think we'll do an assessment of how the turnover is impacting that, because we do have quite a high turnover on drivers. Just because of the way the market is right now. Anything else. But there's a lot of hours in there this June in training that we didn't have last June. But then I had a meeting with supervisory staff yesterday. It's like I need them to really kind of hone in and make sure that drivers are not sitting around, that if they're on the clock, they're driving. And so that we can realize some of the cost savings associated with that reduction in service. I was worried that it was non-driving time for everybody else, supervisors, and that is not the case. I mean, the numbers bear that out. In the general manager's report, I'm gonna go right back on that statement though, and talk a little bit about how we're staffing facilities and that sort of thing, and we'll get to that. I'm not gonna steal my own thunder, but that 111,000 over budget, if we keep going on this existing pace, we're going to be close to 200,000 over at the end of the year for that, and we can't do that. So July is already kind of spent. So hopefully, but we didn't have as much training in July. So hopefully the number will come down a little bit, and we won't get to that point in the estimate to complete.
Those training dollars are up. The good news is you're finding people who are coming to work.
Well, yeah, I mean, we've had, reasonable time this summer covering work. We found a pretty good mix between CDL and non-CDL drivers. But that's also had an impact. We're burning up small vehicles, in fixed route. It's, the fleet is starting to rear its ugly head a little bit, so we need to get that side of the
My
house.
question here works with recruitment of drivers. Improving. I ran into a couple of newbies out there
Yeah.
for the funeral, and I was pleased to see new people coming to work.
Well, certainly, some of those training hours are having, we're having trainees drive with another driver to learn routes and, to learn things like that. there has to be some inconsistencies in the provision of service because we have so many, drivers that don't have, inexperienced drivers that may have experience elsewhere, but, not here. I think that, our rates, our wage rates are closer to that point in the marketplace where we can attract a higher number. But we've got them going out the door almost as quick, so it's, for a litany of reasons. I don't, you can't put your finger on one problem why they go out the door. So, so that's high on the list. We've got some things in, IT that, and sort of, the bills that we have related to communications and, some of the technology we have that we've got to find some ways to consolidate some of that. Like, for instance, we have essentially some buses, 4 data plans that we're paying for one vehicle. And that's all the different systems on it. We've got to figure out a way to consolidate those onto one.
So what's stopping us up to money?
Some of that, they're not, we're in the process of doing research on companies out there that can integrate it for us. We have a planned conversation with B-More on how we can kind of conserve costs on that. That's the IT provider. A lot of it is, I think the best example is the app. The app has never really 100% worked the way we wanted it to work. I mean, it's reasonable. I think we could have always done a better job on making sure we're putting the right information out there on it. But that ought to get replaced by essentially Google Transit, which is off the shelf. No, we don't pay for it. We just have to be able to feed Google Transit. So there's a lift there in terms of making sure we're feeding it with real-time information. And so we're working on connecting that. That's an FTA requirement now, to be able to do that.
You have a deadline on that?
Before my next NTD report, which would be January. So
We have to be on Google, we have to,
I have to provide a link to FTA that has our real-time information on it.
Who feeds the information?
We do.
I mean, who's the we?
Well, we're using T2H is helping us trying to make that connection. But what I want to be able to do is to have Google Transit give us some of the same functions that Ride Systems does. So that we can just replace Ride Systems. That would save us $4,000 a month in data plan fees, because we can route the Google Transit information through the Cradle Points, which is another $3,000 a month that we're paying for those. That the only thing communicating via the Cradle Points is the tap system. So we've got bandwidth there. There's some things we won't be able to switch over, like engine diagnostics. New Flyer won't use our Cradle Points for that. But there's there's a litany of things we gotta work on that front. We've got to be able to count passengers differently because eventually those Jennifer didn't go away. So.
So what do we need to provide NTD with? Just a link or just a way to do it?
Yeah, I had to get a variance in the last years to do that because we don't have that available. We have submitted GTFS. It's called GTFS data in the past, but it's static. It doesn't show buses in real. So it needs to be dynamic. So just working on making that connection, and you can use Cradle Points in order to get that data that just the GPS tracking on the Cradle Points can provide that data. So we just got to make it work.
Well, I do see people using the app. I'm not out there daily and I'm not doing a scientific study, but I do see people using it.
Yeah, and aside from the Microsoft crash weeks ago, I think it's working reasonably well.
It's reasonable.
But I think it's replaceable with basically a free option if we can make the technology work. I don't know how we put rider notices out on Google Transit. for instance. So, but that we gotta have that squared away too before we make the switch.
Does Google Transit have a next bus type capacity?
Don't know.
Yeah.
That's a good question. I would imagine so. There's a lot coming out from California on this topic that we may be able to take advantage of too. So, they kind of let me know what's the next thing kind of on a regular basis. So,
Well, I'll tell people what next bus is. Maybe they don't know, but next bus is you text, I forget the number, 1411 or something like that. Next bus space,
41411.
yeah. You text next bus space and then the sign that you're at, the number of the sign that you're at, like 10 or 20 or 30, whatever. And it texts you right back how many more minutes you'll have to wait for a bus at that stop. And it's, I find it pretty accurate. Sometimes it doesn't work, but I haven't seen mistakes on it.
Okay, well, that's good to know.
Yeah,
And I don't remember if that's scheduled information or if it's real time.
it's real time.
It's supposed to be real time,
It is real time.
but,
I think it is real time. Well, I don't know. That's a good question, but I thought it was. I don't know.
You were there and it came in about the right amount of time?
Yeah, so it's either the bus was right on time or the bus, or it was a real time information. I don't know. It's on time, I don't care.
so there's a lot. I mean, the big hitting item is labor in the budget as it relates to the budget. And so that's top priority at this point. And then some of the stuff that's happening in the direct cost line, and we'll try to get going here.
So Brian, I know as we talked about it in committee meeting, as far as the variances per line, overall, the budget obviously was pretty accurate. I mean, we're within 1%.
Yeah.
But just the lineups. Now, remind us, what is that target? Is it like 10% off on a line item? I can't remember.
Budget revisions triggered if we are 10% over budget in any one of the three departments.
Okay.
Admin, maintenance, or if we have a 20% difference in fares. That's what the policy says.
You may find out that with changes in service like that, salary hours may be more of a fixed expense, like in admin than in a fluctuating expense. I mean,
Right. So, yeah, I mean, there's there's been a little bit of ads in maintenance because we're covering two facilities now. They're covering two facilities. And we've been able to keep the non-driving aspects of transportation fairly static, but the labor costs for actually driving are something that we need to look at whether or not we can control them a little better or not. You want to talk about budget? I mean, I kind of,
Yeah, we can jump with it.
well, I mean, I think with this, I mean, this is a lot of numbers. But what this kind of continues our conversation into kind of where I think we'll finish. So right now, I'm estimating being over budget by 221,000, which in a $8.7 million budget, quick, what is that percentage? It's not, I think that's 1/4 of 10%, so 2.5%, somewhere in that range. Fuel is saving our bacon is probably the big thing. And so hopefully that continues through the summer. And we're gonna work like heck to try to reduce that transit side. And I'm less concerned about the overtime and more concerned about just the total number of hours we're using to create the number of revenue hours that we have, which is a fairly static number based on, per day type of thing. But if I extrapolated those out to the 25 budget, and I guess I'm stealing your thunder, but we've kind of put a little bit of a delay into coming up with a final 25 budget. That 9.0, so we're going to break the $9 million mark, which is a little bit scary. And that generates for next year about a $532,000 shortfall. So the only way to fix that is to lower costs, and increase revenue or increase revenue. And so I've got to spend some time, thinking about that. I think Ron and I are going to get together here and, I think the first step's going to be kind of looking at what happened this year. And then come back with a real budget, to the finance committee next month. So,
Do we have the budget on here?
No, the budget, we'll need to do the budget by the end of August.
Oh,
So
okay.
the next committee meeting will be, the budget discussion.
All right.
And then there'll be parts of the discussion of the budget at the board meeting too. But by then we hope to have it settled. But I think we need to know that, if we don't get extra revenue, which would be forthcoming with the RIDE 4, we will be cutting service. We have no choice.
and we knew that. I mean, even in the financial plan, FY 25 has a fiscal cliff in it.
Yeah, we've been
And our
talking about
current
that
funding.
for 5 years.
Funding, yeah. So, and I think there are some cost controls, like the app we want to do regardless of what happens on November 6th. We've got to try to consolidate a lot of that stuff on the technology side so that we're streamlining that. We're not paying extra data plans and that sort of thing.
So Brian, there's two questions that come to mind. One, the local funding is clearly based on where we're at now, right? And how much does that change if everything goes the way we hope it goes in November?
If November happens, how much does it change?
Yeah. For the local
Um,
funding,
Pretty much that number, that 3.38 million goes to almost 7.6 million.
and will our expenses change?
Not until we put some more services out there.
Okay, so that will be your plan if referendum.
Yeah, but I don't see any increases in service necessarily until FY 26 at the earliest. It'll probably happen sometime within FY
Yeah,
26.
I think maybe reinstating services and, building up reserves would be,
Yeah.
Right.
and maybe capital.
Right. So, and I think that would be the first iteration, like putting 60-minute service back on Route 7, putting it on 15 South. I think there's some conversions that the organizational plan calls for, moving routes 2 and 3, and possibly 14 to microtransit, which is more of a demand responsive type of services, that anybody can use, stuff like that.
But that will happen in 25.
26.
No, I mean the increase.
Well, the increase, if November is successful, the new funding kicks in on May 1st. So we'll essentially get half of it in FY 25, and then the full allocation in FY 26.
You don't get the first nickel on May the 1st, though. You don't get it until October.
Yeah, the cash doesn't hit our system until October 15th
Yeah.
of, next year, 25. And so we would be able to book it in FY 25, but, there would have to be some financing in there to make that, to take advantage of it. And we're gonna want to minimize that, I think. So I've been covering 500,000 that method, that way should be fine. But we got some other things that we want to do. We gotta figure out the local government investment pool. That we need to find some buses. And we still need to build a building. I mean, one thing that really chaps my, is, if we were in the new building, this operation would be close to $500,000 cheaper. Just by virtue of having our buses in downtown Myrtle Beach, we'd be much more responsive to the service interruptions, and
Yeah.
all the deadheads coming out. So, that's frustrating, to say the least. And as you will hear in the GM report, we've got to start thinking about either finding a temporary location for this place or some creative financing for building that building quicker. I think we got one more year on 5339 train before either a new administration hits it or they just won't have as much money in that program. So we'll just figure out a way, whether that's a TIFIA loan or some other creative financing to build that building.
And then we'll save her $20,000 a month for the temporary maintenance facility.
Yeah, I wasn't even including that, actually. So you're right. That's 750,000 in savings in that new building. You know, that's 260 right there, just in lease costs, which haven't hit this. Those aren't in this budget because they're funded through a capital project, but they're not hitting expenses per se.
Will they start, would they always be in capital project grant or? would that like-
No, they would move, once you use up that capital grant, they're gonna have to be paid out of our operating budget. They're on the income statement, they're just kind of below the line, because it's a zero-sum game right now. You know, because we have SMTF supporting it as well, so we're not paying any of that in the expense side.
And when does that grant run out?
End of 25. Something like that,
Around the corner.
like, you know, next December.
And when does our lease end up there?
Oh, gosh. It's a 3.5 year, three-year lease right now. So when we started in October, so, 25, 26, 27, October 27.
So it'll run out after the money runs out.
And we'll still be in it after 27.
No,
Yeah, we will.
no.
You already owe me a lunch from.
I know I do. I'm gonna dole on nothing on that one. I'm gonna dole on nothing on that one. Because I'm a gambler.
So Brian, are you already looking for another place just in case?
I haven't yet, but we need to. I think I think we'll wait until November. See what happens on November 6th, because that'll give us a little bit more breathing room, hopefully.
I was hopefully in my lifetime.
Pressure's on then.
That's the 100 though.
The only reason why I said that is I know Kitty would take it the right way. So yeah, it's, we gotta get that building. I mean, the building grant solves, helps us on the vehicle side too. So it's, because we're hurting on the vehicle side. I got 12 buses out there that could be replaced yesterday. That's $7.2 million I don't have. And so we've got to find that. There's a chance the state's gonna come up with some money on that side of the house.
You go sweet talk someone like
Yeah, I
you
gotta
usually do.
Put my sweet tea voice on.
Right.
That is virtually impossible right now with SCDOT because they are really putting me through the ringer.
Yeah, but the head personally from Conway.
No, that's no help. Zero help with Justin.
Well,
Although-
maybe when we get a new president, she'll take care of us.
Oh, boy, you slide that in there. So I have a grant update. That was the other thing we talked about. And I kind of added a little bit to it. Short story, because I've been venting this to people who will listen to me for the last 2 weeks. We have 2 grants in the TRAM system, the FTA application system, that one is for the new operating funds, which is critical to cash flow. And then one is the 5339 bus and bus facilities grant that we're using to buy the parcel for the new facility. Both were held up by STIP process. And what I mean by that, there is a list that SCDOT has to manage called the Statewide Transportation Improvement Program. It is only a list, and it lists all the federal transportation dollars being spent throughout the state. But FTA will not accept our grant until our projects are in that list. And on July 18th, the commission, so SCDOT commission met, and our projects were nowhere to be found on the agenda. And so I freaked out because actually I take that back. They were on one agenda item for a STIP that doesn't take effect until October 1st, which in the case of our operating grant meant we weren't going to be pulling any money out of it until after October because it's not in the STIP until October. And it actually would have pushed to November or December because TRANS, the program that FTA uses, goes dark from September 23rd, 24th through late October while they do their year-end close. All right, it would have been a mess, which is cash flow wise really would have sucked. And thankfully, I've got a little bit of a happier story. In the case of the capital grant, pushing that past September 23rd when TRANS goes dead or goes dark meant that we would lose those funds because they lapse on September 23rd, which meant $3.5 million for our parcel would have gone up in a puff of smoke. And so needless to say, I was freaking out. And this is a product of, having some newbies at SCDOT. A couple of them were on vacation for a while. So it was like, who do I talk to? Contemplated calling Justin Powell a couple times. Unfortunately for me, I had a cell number. But somehow SCDOT has magically moved those projects from the new STIP, which starts on October 1st, to the current STIP, which is in force right now. And those are finally showed up online yesterday, and I should be getting an email from FTA any minute now to go ahead and execute our grant for the operating grant, and hopefully we've averted some of these cash flow issues.
Since you won't have to borrow money, right?
Well, I'm probably not, but it depends on how long that process takes. If we had waited till November, I would have needed to borrow close to $1 million. And that was kind of what, this is why we have this new policy up for conversation later on today. So we got past the STIP process. And so when did we got past the STIP process today. Last Thursday, we still have the STIP issue happening. And I got an email from SCDOT taking $1 million out of our grant. The $3.5 million used to be $4.5 million. And it was $4.5 million in dollars that the state was flexing to us to use for facilities. And they were coming from small or rural $53.39 and small urban $53.39. For those of you who don't remember, we are a rural program and we are a large urban program. Well, there's somewhere deep within the bowels of Circular 930-1E or whatever the number is. You can't spend small urban dollars in large urban areas.
And how good
Unbeknownst
is
to
it?
me, unbeknownst certainly to SCDOT, so they had to pull the small urban dollars out of the project, which at the very least tightens up the purse strings as it relates to this transaction, which I'll go over in the DM report. And I sent an email to Jen Necker, who's the new Doug Freight. Are you kidding me? That was the first line in my email, because I'm going nuts because the STIP isn't straight. The whole 9 yards. So anyway, that was a long story. Long story, just a little bit longer. STIP is taken care of. I had a call with FTA on Friday. They said they had approved the STIP. Of course, at that point, I hadn't seen any evidence of that on the SCDOT website. Just showed up yesterday afternoon, which is good. And so we've got the STIP problem squared away. So now 5307 money can go, it can be executed, and we're good to go on that one. The 5339 one, I have some footwork to accomplish on exactly what the transaction is going to look like, and we'll cover that in the GM report. But that's your grant update. But that's been my life in July, is trying to figure that crap out. That's all I had for Finance Committee. If that's enough.
That's almost enough. So we do still have the policy to talk about.
Okay, yes.
Under our. So this kind of relates in looking at short-term loan policy and wording here, this currently stands and how we could make it effective. Our needs, basically. But for us to talk about as a,
This is the one that's edited, yep. So this is, actually, you just want to look at it through the resolution.
yes. And so background, we have obviously a current policy. I think it's currently at a limit of $250,000, 90-day payback. So obviously with some of the things that we've learned, that may not be as appropriate going forward. So wording that better allows.
So the background is basically the policy language. So the old policy allowed, oh boy. Interesting.
Remove that panel to top it.
Yeah, I'm trying to, I don't have control over that panel. It's over here. What's that doing that over there, do you think, Candace?
This is my name up there.
First time that's happened.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I haven't.
Like,
Happened. I don't see what happened.
We just can't see the full document.
it's a word issue.
We could just look at it there if you want. That, I think that was coming up probably
Oh, it was.
here.
Is he also on
Cool. Why is that? So that is a, no, it's word two. So the old policy had a limit of $250,000, which if what happened with this grant went down was not enough money in order to keep the doors open. And then, it has a time limit on it of 90 days, paying it off in 90 days, which really isn't problematic, although it would have been if we were waiting until November or December for grant monies to roll in. And so, those limitations were put on us by the bank because of what the policy said, not because of the bank. Just so everybody understands. So, it made sense to try to tweak this so that we're tying it to money that we know we're gonna get. Like if there's a delay in a draw, and it's a draw that's based on reimbursements, not on money coming out of the road use fees, because we don't know those amounts, until they get here. Needed a little bit more, leeway on how much we could borrow depending on what the situation is. And when we first tried to redo this policy, I was also trying to I was trying to address the context of what are we doing next year when we've got potentially 1.8 million in revenue that we could recognize during the course of the year, beginning May 1st, but not getting it until October. And so this policy doesn't address that situation, I don't think. But what it does do is, like, next time I get hung up on grants not arriving at the time that we need them to arrive on, that I could go get the money from CMB. It's set up as more of a line of credit. So it's even, we go online, we pull the money over, we pull it into our account. It's not going over there and doing a new loan like we did this time around. And the limit, the dollar amount limit would be tied to what the draw is gonna be. So it's a 1-for-1 type of exchange or a less than 1-to-1. So I think strategically, as I'm working through cash requirements, I would try to borrow less than what the draw is. I just borrow enough to get us through so that when we do eventually get the draw, I've got a little bit of fluff there, to keep us up to, for future, cash outlays.
I have a question, Mr.
Go ahead.
Chair. We, this new policy, that doesn't, you're calling it the old policy, but the old policy will still be in effect. It may be closed out when this one starts and we pay back the first one. But there'll be two policies in effect if we pass this one.
Well, I think it's a revision of the old.
It's a revision of the old policy. We will have a loan out there that
Okay, I got it.
was allowed under the current policy. And it's not at an amount that's tied to a draw, so it would not satisfy this one. But I think I could pay that one off and start this one
And then the other
make that a little bit cleaner. So that the new loan is tied to this policy. And so the other thing that I added to this was that I would let the board know before I go do it, that I'm doing it. This is the amount, this is the grant it's being drawn on. And then I would have a plan for making sure that it gets paid off at the subsequent finance committee.
Okay, I got one more question. I understand this thing and I'm in favor of it because I think we have no choice but to do it. But would the other policy still be in effect and you could still use that one along with this one if this one passes?
Revised.
Yeah, no.
Okay,
No, it would not. This is still policy P-2. And so we're editing the current policy. In cash requirements right now, I don't have us paying off we have 250,000 over there now. I don't have that paid off until October 15th, but I think if I have this and I've got a little bit more information on when our grant's gonna be executed, that we can not have both in force at the same time.
and there would be no first one because this would be, it would be revised.
Right.
Okay, I got it.
Right. I hadn't thought about that, so, yeah, we can make that work.
Now, I'm a little confused. Did we borrow money already?
We have borrowed money under the old policy,
We did.
yes, in July,
Oh,
And that is not.
250,000.
But there's a plan to pay it off in 90 days.
because
This,
at one time, we had to get another policy to pay off the old policy and another policy to pay off both of them.
Yes,
We don't want to do that.
commonly referred to as an evergreen loan. That is a 4-letter word.
this policy, as opposed to the other policy, would only be tied to money that is coming in. It's just not there yet, but it's coming. The other one was not that deep, not the
No,
same
it
thing,
wasn't, yeah, it's a different mechanism.
right? But the other one's gonna go away. The other one's gonna be replaced by this one. Am I right? That's right?
Right, well, I think the other thing I could do is to tie that 250 to draws. Like I've got draws from 5311 right now that are sitting at the state. Doing
You wouldn't
God
really
knows
need to
what.
do that.
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that everybody understands that, that this one will replace the other one, or that's what we're doing. Okay.
Yeah.
So is the 250 being paid under the old policy? Or is it gonna be incorporated in a new one, and can you do that?
It's borrowing money to pay off.
Yeah, no, you don't want to do it that way.
I don't think it's on bar.
I think I think the safer thing to do is to kind of let it play out the way it's planned in cash requirements. And
then go forward.
just making sure that it's done by the end of the fiscal year and October 15th is the date that it's due. I know we can pay it before then. So so it's not extending over fiscal years.
Right, and it's not really tied to this one. It's the
Right.
one that's leaving.
Right. That's the safer thing at this point. I still don't know road use fees are gonna look like. They've been kind of hovering around 210 to 220 a month. Usually this time of year, they're a little higher than other months. I think I have 185 in there now.
So this was always meant to be revision, and I was just confused
Yes.
about that, okay.
Yeah. And unfortunately, the revision doesn't really take into consideration the, what's happening next year.
Right.
That's gonna
Next year
be,
is
that's gonna be a different animal. And honestly, at these amounts, the interest expense related to that's the other thing. We want to minimize this as best we can because we're paying 8.25 on this. I want to talk to multiple banks about sort of bonding rates and whether or not those are lower when we get to the sales tax, because I'm pretty sure that we're at numbers where that has to be, you have to do an RFP for that. I can't just give it to CMB because of the amount of the interest.
So,
And we'd want to do that anyway to get our best rating.
so if you go to the bank and you take them, an FTA database, that's enough for them to,
I loaded them down. I brought 2 audits. I brought our latest board report financials. I brought
a resolution.
cash receipt, cash requirement scenarios.
Okay.
Gave them, it's full disclosure
Yeah.
and the policy. And they're cool with it.
And we're disclosing it to the county as we
I've let the county know. I'm Barry's out of the office right now, but Barry's, Spivey emailed me Monday. He's like, okay, what's this agenda item? So they're watching.
Yeah, good, good. I'm glad they are.
Yeah. And he asked about the parcel purchase, so I let him know
Yeah.
what's going on with that.
Now, if you go to other banks, won't they be, it'd be a competition to get your,
That's the point.
yeah, so they should lower the rate.
You would hope.
Hope so, yeah.
That's the whole reason for doing it. That's why FTA wants you to do that. They want you to competitively bid that.
Yes.
I don't, I've worked on these from a planning perspective, but I've never actually gone out to get a bonding rating, and all that stuff. I don't even know what that would look like for us at this point. But we'll be eligible for it because of the sales tax.
The county does that. Maybe they can give you some pointers or webinar
Yeah.
about it or something, something.
Maybe. So do you want to,
Yeah, so Bernie, I guess we want to
Wanna make
make
a
a
motion?
motion to motion.
yeah, the committee can make the motion.
That's
Go
fine.
ahead,
So-
before we make that,
Sure.
I just had one comment or thing. Isn't this a fairly, standard type of thing with RTAs?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so it's something that's like the generally accepted accounting principles or something like that.
Yeah,
Probably an industry practice.
Right, so it's nothing new, it's fairly consistent with other RTAs.
and when
And
we,
some of these trade publications, and stuff you read about, there's sometimes blurbs in there about RTAs getting short-term loans for capital.
Honestly, I don't.
In advance of grant money, it's
We
not
do.
unusual.
we do, just tweaking it.
Right.
Yeah.
We're just making it a little bit more flexible for me.
So Ryan, you want to read the resolution or no?
Waccamaw Regional Transportation Authority Resolution Number July 2024-08, authorization to establish bank line of credit policy P2. I guess it's really revised, but that's okay. A motion of the Board of Waccamaw Regional Transportation Authority, authorization for the general manager / secretary treasurer authority to establish a bank line of credit for cash flow purposes as necessary.
We have a motion.
No,
So
Is there supposed to be something in there about our notification? That's not in there?
That's in the background of it, and it's part of the policy. I think we're just approving the policy as it's written here.
Policy says you notify him, chair or
And
designee.
so we approve that
And
policy
then
and
go
then
to the next month's finance committee for the whole group, I think. That's what I saw last.
we have to
So is
approve
the-
two different things.
Yeah, it's in
No.
there,
it's a resolution to approve this policy. That's it.
right?
And where does it say that we're notified?
The last line.
The GM CEO will notify the board chairman or designee via email or
Okay.
by phone text for.
Should
Black
it
record.
designate be plural? Should it be maybe an S in parentheses after, it, in case, you know, you could have like the finance or the board finance chairman or whoever, but there might be more than one designee. I don't know. Minor point, but I can only limit you to two people, the way it's written.
I think that's fine.
It's
I
fine.
mean, I'm gonna tell everybody anyway.
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
Okay, and then the resolution just enables the policy.
Yes. Resets it as this.
Can we vote on this?
Do you need a motion?
We need a motion since we didn't.
I so move.
Second,
Any discussion? All in favor, please vote by saying
Aye.
aye.
Opposed? Abstention? All right, sure. I think that is it for finance committee unless there's any other questions.
We have agenda item compensation committee, which I'll just say that, be thinking about that for next month, for the next 2 months. That's, the compensation committee would be discussing, Ryan's, evaluation.
Yeah, Melissa, you're the only one new on this. Brian and I are meeting after this meeting. I'm gonna get his list of accomplishments. And by mid-August, be mailing the evaluation tool Bernie just mentioned. Probably I'm gonna tweak that. I might have you look at too, Bernie. But mail it mid-month, back to me by early or mid-September, and we'll discuss it as a board
Right.
at our September meeting, because contract
You have
is-
a committee anyway, don't you?
Bernie.
Well, I used to be on the
You wanna
committee.
be on it?
Well, I used to be on.
I didn't know that.
And the committee thinks
Good.
There, what, am I on it or not?
compensation committee is, Rob Keehan, Marvin Keene, Randall Wallace, Catherine D'Angelo. So you.
So, and Daryl took over for.
Yeah, right.
Rob.
So it's, Darryl, Marvin, Randall, and Kitty. You guys got expanded.
I'll stay in touch with you guys.
I got the day off, so, there you go.
So there's no what you're doing.
Okay, is there anything else for finance? Okay, next is old business, any old business? Okay,
Well, I do have on the bylaws, there's a wrong date, the wrong year. If you would change that to June of 2024. The last one that came out. It says 2023 on it. Yeah, on the cover. Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
okay, any other, old business? Thank you. New business. We have a vice chair vacancy, we all know that, Rob left, I think, in March or April, and I became chair, I was vice chair, became chair. And, we need a new vice chair. So, I'm asking for nominations for vice chair, there'll be, if there are nominations, which I hope there will be, then we would have an election next month. I'm opening the floor
May
for
I just
nominations,
say that
yes.
if you don't get any nominations, why don't you just appoint someone temporarily until we can get someone to fill? But at least it'll look good. You have someone there. It's a thought.
Yeah, okay. Okay,
We've done that in different organizations.
Okay. yeah, thank you, good idea. Okay, are there any nominations for vice chair? Seeing none, I don't see any, I don't hear any either, so.
I see Melissa on the screen.
She's like,
We're not gonna twist any arms, we're not gonna twist arms. Be thinking about that, though.
You know, we need to probably talk some people into it.
Yeah, be thinking about that, and if I call you, just pretend you're not home. I'll leave you a message, but pretend you're not home. Okay, general manager's report.
All right. I'm gonna try to get through this as quickly as possible. Some things that have gone on since we last met. I recovered from vacation and got home, I got to my office that Friday on the 29th and got a call from Karen Reardon that she was no longer the director. It started with that and then all this crap with the grants. We have taken delivery on 3 transits. I can't really see in this picture, but these transits are a little bit different configuration. They have dual wheels on the back. So I got a little bit more heft in the back related to to kind of give them a little bit less wear and tear related to the lift
How many
that
does it
comes
hold?
the back. 11 on these. I think they're a little bit bigger than the old ones.
And there's 2 chairs.
It's really
Seating
good.
wise?
Right.
10.
10.
And how many chair lifts, how many chair,
And there's 2 wheelchair positions. So you lose some of the ambulatory seating when you're using both of those.
Yeah.
But, they're really nice. We have a 4th one coming. As soon as this grant opens up and we can take delivery of it. And we do plan on ordering 2 cutaways with the grant that's got the parcel funding and it's got some vehicles in it.
and where do you intend to use these?
These are paratransit only. Although, no, I take that back. We might use them in fixed route if we can get bike racks put on them. So that's a big no there from our maintenance.
You don't think they'll tip over?
We got-
They'll
we
tip
got-
over, do you?
One thing that became abundantly apparent at service pack is we've got to get back on the horse as it relates to looking at some service data. I had a great meeting with the supervisory folks in transit on, I guess it was yesterday. I need to have a better understanding of what our fleet requirement is for paratransit. Because it seems like it's bigger than 11 on certain days. And we're using, so we have 14 vehicles or 13 vehicles, but we're using a bunch of those in fixed route of the cutaways. And so I don't know that we have enough equipment for that service. And so looking at the fleet, looking at service, and looking at ridership is declining a little bit. And I think it's more than just some of the reductions in service. So we need to look at why that's happening. There are 4 van pools in operation today, Melissa.
There are, and the 5th one will be here Friday or the following week. And I had a conversation with Torin with Commute with Enterprise. We probably have another 20 people that are interested, but we can't connect the dots on them.
That's it. Awesome. I already mentioned, the onboard survey, so we don't need to really talk about that. I got State of the Coast meetings coming up, the week of August 24th. That's the week after the onboard survey. We'll get those, invites out to, board members if you'd like to come and attend the State of the Coast. That's just staff meetings. We talk about what's going on with everything. Talked about the task conference. There is a breakfast being sponsored by Neighbor to Neighbor coming up on September 27th. I'm not sure if it's bad form for us to rent a table.
I think we should, and Brian is minimizing it, but yes, it's a fundraising
We usually
opportunity.
do. I mean, it's
Yeah.
other things, we always get a date.
Well, this is, Neighbor to Neighbor this is a kind of a new thing for them. They were looking to start a fundraising opportunity for themselves and they wanted to, I think they're calling it like Champions of Transportation. Their first annual breakfast, and they have picked Mr. Brian Tiasek to be their first nominee. And while we're trying to like inflate,
There's going to be,
it's gonna be at the train depot.
oh, well,
Yeah.
So yeah. I think we should
So I'll keep you, once we have, if anybody has a lead on somebody you might want to sponsor, I'm working with them closely to identify some sponsors to support. We're leaning on some stuff. And then we're tasked with saying some nice things about Brian. Then he can take his award. And, but I think it'd be, he deserves it. And
yes.
so, I mean, without question, and I think it elevates post RTA, as well. So, and then going into the referendum, so. But it is a fundraising thing, so, and Neighbor to Neighbor has been a great partner for us, and I think with their new CEO will continue to be.
Yeah.
So I poke fun at Brian a lot because I try to make sure his head doesn't get too inflated.
Yeah.
So, so anyway, that's out there. I'd love for summer, all of you guys to attend. And then a big congratulations to Marty Buffkin, who has been accepted to leadership grade. That is, I can't tell you, that is a big deal. And I'm really pleased that she's gonna be doing that. And so, when does that start? The day that your daughter has open house at school. So hopefully we can, keep that, both of those going, but,
Let me add,
Board member to be with your daughter.
Priority here, right?
let me add that Marty has her picture on the wall of fame next door.
she was,
It's the June employee of the month.
I'm really appreciative of that too, because the driver, a lot of the operations staff voted for that, so that made
Oh,
me
that's
feel really
wonderful.
nice.
Aw.
Yeah,
You deserve it.
thank you.
Yeah, it's a very nice picture and it's a well done, like a little display of other months and
She's a
stuff.
very nice person. When I was walking around on a walker, she was out moving my car, backing it up, getting me out of the car, getting me in there. I mean, that's wonderful.
And a good liaison. She's a good liaison.
Party.
congratulations.
She can send a lot of emails right in a row.
Pretty awesome. So I look forward to hearing about those meetings and what's going on and what they're saying about Coast RTA. All right, going from really cool stuff to not so cool stuff.
Yeah.
We have definitely seen this summer an uptick in safety and security issues at transit centers, on buses, altercations with drivers. And I honestly, I could be a little misled on this, but I don't think our drivers are really at the root of a lot of this. I think they're doing a relatively good job on de-escalating. We did have a supervisor assaulted in June. Got pushed down. I mean, his injuries were minor. But it's not fun out there right now. There's a lot of angry people for whatever reason. I'm sure they all have their own reasons. And so it's something that staff and I are talking about. I don't have any epiphanies on a good solution. I've had conversations with City of Myrtle Beach. I will have similar conversations with Conway and with county police. And I think really, certainly budgetarily, we don't have the money to do security personnel on staff. And I don't think a security guard is the answer here because they're either going to be overzealous or not zealous enough. And it's a lot of money in order to make that happen. I have had conversations with City of Myrtle Beach staff and to a lesser extent, Amy Prock, but I think we do definitely need a bigger presence over there, especially the Myrtle Beach Transit Center from police. And so we're just going to keep working the problems, working on helping staff have the tools to de-escalate situations. But I think the uptick really kind of corresponded with the clearing out of the first. There were 200 homesteads in the 50 acres, our side and the other side, that got removed. And so those people had to go somewhere. And so they're out and about a little bit more. And I don't think this is necessarily just homeless necessarily. I wasn't suggesting that. We have not had too many issues on weapons being brought on board. We are making some changes related to the notification for people, especially with the new open carry law in South Carolina, that basically disallows firearms or weapons of any kind on the buses, concealed or otherwise. It's kind of hard to enforce, but we're utilizing federal option here because we are operating within federally funded facilities as well as on federally funded vehicles. So we went federal on this, and you'll see that we'll have a sign noted very similar to this on every bus and in every facility, which allows law enforcement to enforce it when it's necessary. We have also instituted a new alerts system. This is a text option for riders. Those signs are on the buses. If they see something that they think is not right, they can text us. The text goes straight to supervisory personnel. And so it's just a good way of getting notification. And honestly, down the road, I want to take our camera systems to the next level to go to real time, even on the buses. Because now we're really only doing that in arrears on the bus. We can see what's going on at facilities real time. The other part of this is addressing staffing. I don't think it's smart for us to have one supervisor sitting at the transit center at any point during the day. It's just a cost factor more than anything else, but I've asked from Doug and his staff to give me a plan on covering both facilities with more than one person, at least two. Obviously, there will be points in the day where somebody's got to go investigate an accident or something like that. Not a whole lot we can do to avoid that, but we certainly don't want anybody closing at night by themselves, especially at Myrtle Beach Transit Center.
Yeah, over here, there's somebody around.
Yeah, we usually have somebody around, so just want to keep you guys up to date on that. There was, you probably all know this, but there was a murder at the transit center in Myrtle Beach in June that happened after hours. And, obviously doesn't have anything to do with transit necessarily. And I think we were able to skirt pretty nasty press situation there. The press took it easy on us, just said transit center.
They loved saying the
Yeah.
transit center.
There was no Coast RTA
They never said it was closed.
in there.
But I had a neighbor point out to me that the TV coverage that they had with the safe place program.
Yeah,
That was probably really a safe place. They had a murder done.
thanks.
Well, if they were a wayward teenager. we got
This
stuff.
is problematic for all transit agencies. Transit happens when you have densities, when you have more people. Crime happens when you have more people. So they're mutually exclusive, but they definitely happen sometimes in the same place. So, but the press took it easy on us, I'd say, as it related to that. And it was awful. There wasn't really any reason for it. And according to police, it was a mental health issue more than anything else. There was no vindictiveness there. It was just crazy. And that's, that's just kind of what's happening, unfortunately. That's not the right one. We have we got a printed
You
version.
revised that one?
Yeah, we revised this one too. So if we can print that, so we can pass it around, that'd be great. All right, so I think this is the last thing on my this is the last thing. And I just wanted to just keep you guys up to speed on what's happening with the site acquisition as it relates to the transaction itself. The blue outline, I don't know if you can see it, but the blue outline is the portion of the parcel that is not dedicated necessarily to transit, but the parts of it that will be used by transit operations and maintenance. This portion down here at the bottom, you barely see there's an outline of a fire station in there. Do I have a pointer? That is fire department. So FTA has put it upon me to
Are there two squares up?
That pointer there somewhere. Doug was using it yesterday. I have to show this transaction happening without any FTA resources being used for this portion of the site. Obviously, the reason why it has to all be assembled into one purchase is really more of a product of the owner than anything else. It's a local issue. And so it's not really that difficult, except that the appraisal that we have is for the entire parcel, which is 21.53 acres. 3.15 acres goes to the city of Myrtle Beach for fire department. And the appraised value at this point in time is $4.35 million. Anything else I want to say about this? So the appraised value is for the whole parcel FTA wants to see an appraisal for just the blue outline. Okay, so that they can see where we're applying federal funds for that.
I'm sorry, you said an official appraisal or just a breakdown of the appraisal?
Official, which we already have one, so I don't think it's gonna take too long to update it necessarily. And the interesting thing is we have to bring the appraisal for the whole thing to purchase side of the house. But this is just for the funding side. So I'm not sure what that looks like. I have been going back and forth with FTA and exactly what that looks like. And so I just wanted to show you guys how this lays out in the grant. Remember, the grant has 3.5 million in federal funds. It's got 875 from multiple sources through Horry County, 875,000. And the city is prepared to pay 750,000 for their, essentially, for the overall project. We have to incorporate the fees associated with buying property, whether that's closing or legal fees or realtor and all that stuff. So we apply a 7% premium to the project cost. So the project on paper right now costs 4.654. And if we were able to fund it this way, I could apply the 750 and the 875 to the whole project. We'd use a little over 3 million of the 3.5 million in the grant, and we could pay for the whole thing, and that would be 65% federal portion of the purchase, which is really good because that means in future iterations of the project during construction, for instance, we could take advantage of that 15% or so of federal portion on another portion of the project, and maybe not apply as much local match to that portion of the project. It just gives us a little bit of a small credit. This is totally off the table now. So then if I take my 4.65 million and I apply a cost per acre, homogeneous cost per acre across the property, and you can see on here, we've got 8 acres for the maintenance facility. We got 4 acres for the transfer facility. We got 3.15 for the fire department. We need some stormwater. It's about 2 acres. We've got circulation. So all the roads and all that take up about 1.5 acres. And there's additional land in the back that we're not using that would be there for future expansion or whatever, 2.7 acres. And so if I divide 21.53 into the 4.654, that's about $216,000 per acre. And so the problem with isolating the fire station is that means I got to use the city money for purchase of the fire station property and not for local match towards the federal project. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if we were at $216,000 per acre, then I need $680,000 to buy the fire department property. And so then I would have a little bit of leeway on their 750 to use across other parts of the project for local match, which is what this illustrates. So my usage of federal funds goes up a little bit, 3.178 up from like 3.029 or whatever it was. I'm not using all of the money from the Horry County. This is at 80% federal. And I actually I'm a little under the I'm a little over the 750, so I'd have to adjust those numbers. However, and FTA has already called me on this, is that the 3.15 acres that the fire station's using in the front yard should be worth more per acre than 3.15 acres in the backyard, just from a market value perspective. They're totally correct. And I meant to say earlier in this process, never was I going to try to apply federal funds to the fire station. That was never a part of the deal. I'm just trying to get them as much information as they need in the grant so they can execute it. And then there would be full appraisals and fine tuning before we actually make the purchase. But now they're making me do the fine tuning ahead of time. So what if we were to distribute the cost per acre across the front yard, middle part, and the backyard? And this is just a swag, but I've got 245,000 per acre in the front, down to 172,000 in the back, which is good because I think fairly soon after we make the purchase, there's going to be an opportunity to sell some of the back acreage to Elvis. So we want to give them a better price because it's landlocked property.
Well, and the 3 point something acres of Myrtle Beach, that'll just about be there. With according to your calculations, the 750.
So it's actually a little more than that. At 245,000, it's 773. So it's 23,000 more. And Myrtle Beach is prepared to pay that.
Mhm.
And I told them I probably need a plus or minus 100,000 on the purchase of your property. And then I want to use whatever's left on that to put towards the project. And Myrtle Beach is on board with that. I talked to them yesterday. And so this is what the transaction looks like if we're using this graduated cost per acre, depending on where in the property we're talking about. And I guess that's it's a little less federal dollars. We use up a little bit more from Horry County, and we need more from Myrtle Beach in order to make that happen. So that's operating grant is going to be good to go, hopefully by the end of the day in the system, and we'll get it to DOL and executed. This is what I'm working now to get this one through that same process. The STIP is taken care of. The state clerical stuff is taken care of. But now I've got to make sure that FTA is on board with whatever these numbers. So I've gone back to the realtor to get an updated appraisal of the dollars by segment. And we'll try to work this out. And so the main point for this is, A, it's getting more complicated. So I just wanted you guys to understand that, we're on it and we're working on it. But B, by virtue of taking the $1 million out of the project, I don't have a lot of wiggle room on purchase price. If we use the method for acquisition like we've been talking about, we're going to be comparing our appraisal to the owner's appraisal. And typically in that conversation, they meet somewhere in the middle. So I'm not thinking that the 4.6 is going to be the actual purchase price if we have to go through eminent domain. And so that makes it a little bit problematic. I don't think that's going to affect, though. I think we'll be able to use numbers in the grant that are going to be fairly equate to what this table shows. But we might have to amend the grant with some other dollar somewhere if the price changes. And that's going to slow the process down.
Does this have to go to the Department of Labor?
This goes to Department of Labor, but there's no contractors in this. So
Right.
so they don't have a dog in that hunt. So it should turn around pretty quickly. The big thing is getting it in before their deadline, so that August 18th is their deadline, so that we get it back before September 23rd and the money lapses. So that's kind of working back from that. I've got 2.5 weeks to figure this stuff out so that FTA's comfortable with it. That concludes the general manager's report.
Thank you. Anything else for the general manager before we move on? Announcements. I have a couple of short announcements. One is be thinking about the task thing. It's online. It's a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, the week that follows Labor Day. So be thinking about that. There is a GSATS, and I'll send this out by email. There's a GSATS public comment about walkability grant that they're getting or they've gotten. And there's a meeting at the Myrtle Beach train station on 12 to 2 o'clock on Monday, August 5th. I'm planning to go. I think, it's a pedestrian and a walkability and that kind of thing, but our bus riders are pedestrians.
Until they get to the bus.
When they get there and they get off the bus. So I'm planning to go, and I'll send that out so everybody can take a look at it. The only other thing I have is that I have spoken to Rob. I know Daryl spoke to Rob as well. He sounded better than he had in a long time. And I was really glad to talk to him, really glad to hear him sounding good. He's had a lot of medical things, and coming up in August will be the anniversary of his son's terrible accident. So I would think he's going to have a tough time. I'm going to be calling him. He doesn't call me back very often, but I'm glad when he does. And so that's just all I had to report. Any other announcements?
One, if you haven't had a chance to look where the old parts department was, a very nice, finally employee lounge. It's done
Yeah.
very nicely, whoever did all the decorating, it is done nice.
Say that again?
The employee lounge, you know, we never had one, that little dinky room here.
Oh,
Where the
really?
parts department used to be,
Yeah.
really very nice couches,
Yeah.
nice painting,
Take a look.
TV, really, really nice. And some people in this room have something to do with it.
Marty, right? Oh, yeah.
Marty and Pamela.
It's fantastic.
Is there anything else for the good of the order? Okay, I don't hear anything, I don't see anything. I'll take a motion to go into executive session for a personnel matter.
Make a motion, we go into executive session for personnel matters.
Second,
I second.
any
Second.
discussion? All in favor? You say aye.
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 Okay, any opposed? Motion carries, and after this, we're just gonna adjourn. So people don't really need to come back if they don't want to, but. The camera's off, and you want Brian to stay, is that what?
So we've got, Mr.